as you can see, nothing short of controversy. The title of the video I'm going to watch is Are Black People Intellectually Inferior?
So I understand that I'm watching basically the same guy again, but we have to because this is a black person reacting to it. And I knew if somebody like this existed in Africa, we've seen a bunch of them in America, but I knew if someone like this existed in Africa, they'd get extremely popular. And it's very unfortunate.
If you've been on Twitter, you'll know that the idea of race realism's on the rise, especially with the rise of the so called far right.
Two red flags. He said so called far right. It is the far right. Also, there's no such thing as race realism, it's just racism. Race realism, whenever you hear that word, just know they're just talking about racism, but they're saying we're being real about race. In other words, they're being racist.
They believe nations are made out of people and people are meant to be amongst their own.
They believe nations are made out of people and people are meant to be amongst their own. Sounds like pure racism to me.
And they'll even go as far to say that different races are subspecies. Now, I'm a Christian. I believe all races are made in the image of God.
I hope that's not the only reason you believe that there's not subspecies. If you believe that outside of religion there is no evidence that other human beings around the world are not subspecies, then we need to work on a couple things.
Um, but with that being said, as we have lived in different environments for a certain period of time, I believe there are going to be differences within races.
Uh-oh, here we go. Because we've been in different places for a long time, there's going to be a difference within races. That's already sounding like
Like, for example, one example is white people. On average, they've got longer clavicle, so clavicular bone. I think I'm saying it right. Clavicle bone than black people, which makes them broader, and I think that's conducive to their ability to swim.
so take everything that he says with a grain of salt. And then of course the first question I would ask is, all white people are like that, or is it just a few white people? And then secondly, is it Caucasians or is it just white people?
Black people, we have is it is it type 2? We have a high prevalence of type 2 muscle fibers, which makes us better at sports which require explosion. So, for
Not gonna lie, I thought he was gonna say type 2 diabetes.
example, basketball, where they're bouncy, sprinting, where they utilize explosive movements and just fast switch stuff. So,
Not gonna lie, sounds like a load of garbage, to be honest. I don't believe none of that. Do I believe that there are some places which probably have sprinting ability or something because of where they lived? Yes. Do I believe it's due to like them being African or something? No. By the way, why would your genetics make you good at basketball? The thing about basketball, soccer, any sport really that you pick is that it's more difficult than just doing one task. If your genetics was good at something, that's fine. But there's like a whole bunch of things that you need to do and understand at the exact same time.
and it's okay to explain our differences in the realm of sport, but when it comes to the realm of intelligence, that's where a lot of controversy is stirred.
No, it's actually still very controversial in sports, actually. It's not like in sports they go, oh, yeah, let's just give it to the Ethiopian guy. He's going to win. You know, they still let the people run the race because anybody could win.
So this is a black man making that video. We're gonna watch his video with an open mind in it, because a lot of people, as soon as they say it, they'll disregard everything he says and just call him racist. But we are not doing that here.
Well, I would say it's self-hate and opportunistic. That's what I'd say. I wouldn't say it's just racist. But I do understand that you feel that it's important to watch it with an open mind. I think that's a very healthy way of looking at it. Although I don't know how open-minded you're going to be. I wonder how open-minded you would be to other controversial ideas.
We are going to watch this with an open mind.
Are black people intellectually inferior?
Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Why do you keep watching this video? I want to remind you over the last 10 years that they've been trying to make us feel guilty about trying to put the lid on racism, calling us woke and all that other stuff. And the second you pop that top just a little bit, all the demons fly out.
Are all of Africa's problems made in London, Paris, or Berlin?
So the phrasing here is very important. So he says, are all the problems of Africa made in Paris, London, or Berlin? Okay, so therefore it's not the fault of those people. So is every problem in America, or let's try this, is every problem in the Middle East made in Washington? No? So not every, therefore the Middle East never gets affected by America. There's no war going on right now. There's nothing going on right now, and it's not affecting them at all, and it will never affect them. The logic doesn't make sense.
Is colonization to be blamed for all of Africa's problem? Are white
Not all, but a lot.
people sitting in London, Paris, and Berlin and pressing buttons to make sure that Africa stays poor?
Well, according to like different human rights organizations in different sectors, they all say it's 100% true. They talk about the great replacement theory. They talk about oil and exploitation of the land. They talk about how loans that should have been given to Africa, well, grants that should have been given to Africa were given as loans, debt trapping Africa. They talk about how democracy and communism ruined Africa because they made them, like I said last time, the Cold War was only a Cold War for Russia and America. It was a hot war in Africa. So yes.
Usually, there have been notable black people who did some one-off stuff here and there. However, most of them were trained in the West. But
So are you just giving up this idea that it's intellectual? Because if you're saying they're trained in the West, then you're trying to say that it's the environment and that you could just train the person. That means you've already given up your entire premise.
collectively, black-dominated countries in Africa are the poorest, least developed, or industrialized.
Okay,
in this
right.
video, I want to use some data to draw inferences from black countries and compare them against non-black countries. At BCD, Bantu City Diaries, no topic is off limits, and we have no space for wokeism or political correctness.
Okay.
Every
Open mind.
country in black Africa is underdeveloped
Yep.
and poor, whilst
Yep.
every country in
Yep, he's not wrong. When I went to Nigeria, if I'm being quite honest, quite frankly, like obviously there are the nice parts. When people go out to December to Nigeria, they'll tell you, "Oh, Lagos is nice, blah blah." The Lagos of the 1%, which accounts for probably 1% of Lagos's landmass, but for the most part, nah, it's not really a good place.
Hey, you can say that about Lagos or wherever. This guy maybe is Nigerian something. And you can say that about your home place, but South Africa is amazing. And anyone who comes here is going to see it. For the most part, 99% of it, it's amazing.
I'll be honest. It's corrupt. There are no roads. There's no good infrastructure. Like a journey which should take maybe an hour because of the lack of infrastructure, that being roads and trains. Like a journey which is a 1 kilometer in displacement would require maybe 5 kilometers of travel because there's no sophisticated road infrastructure in Nigeria. So
Why do you
So I do understand that if he's been to Nigeria, that he probably has a lot of information about Nigeria. But Nigeria is not Africa. Nigeria is in Africa, and there's many countries in Africa that are well developed when it comes to infrastructure. A lot of times, the lack is in population size versus the infrastructure. But we don't need to get too deep into that. Oh yeah, I just want to answer one thing. That whole like it's corrupt. Yeah, so is almost every other place in the world. There's places that are way worse. You know what? By the way, let me just say something about Africa. You know, in Africa, the word corruption in Africa exists because we don't live in dictatorships. Like a lot of these other dictatorships around the world that exist to this day, they don't get called corrupt because they're just messed up from the beginning to the end. And then, of course, the West is very corrupt, especially when it comes to dealing with other countries.
Europe is not. The average GDP per capita in Africa is just $2,000. The whole of West Africa, comprising almost 500 million people, have a GDP of just under $550 billion. Elon Musk is
one thing about Nigeria, its GDP used to be 500 billion by itself. I believe it's divided by 3 ever since Buhari took office. I'm clued up with Nigerian politics. I know why it's shit.
Which no one's going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree that Nigeria needs a little less corruption and a lot more better stuff in that regard. Yeah.
Now, I think his GDP now is about 170 billion. In 2015, it was 500 billion. So yeah.
So what he's saying is absolutely true. Nigeria definitely had way more than it does now. So something obviously is going wrong. But it's not just that. There's also other countries that I've seen that have also dipped. But we'll get back to that some other time.
You can imagine.
single American is richer than the whole of West Africa. In fact, the country Elon Musk left as a teenager for Canada is now poorer than he is.
So, by the way, I'm not doing this to be picky or anything, but what he's talking about is nominal GDP. And you can see that South Africa is about 200 billion less than Sweden. And that means Elon Musk is significantly richer than that, too. So, according to this genius, Sweden is also a failed state. Again, there's a lot to be said about money management. There's a lot to be said about politics. There's a lot to be said about a lot of things.
Africa's largest economy, South Africa, Musk's birth country, has a GDP of $426 billion against Elon Musk's $680 billion as of today. The combined West Africa produces or innovates less than Sweden, Norway, or Denmark individually. Central Africa's case is almost identical. In fact, it makes even less. Imagine a country the size of the DR Congo, which is bigger than West.
You're probably wondering why I didn't react to that. It's because I have no idea what he just said there.
Western Europe, and every inch of that land is rainforest, with some of the most endowed lands known to man.
And another thing.
Well, that's true, but the second we remove any of that land in order so that we can exist or build factories and stuff, there's going to be international companies complaining. Do you remember the story about the Amazon rainforest when the Americans, South Americans, wanted to use it so that they could expand stuff like farming and stuff like that within those areas. And then international community came back and said, no, you can't do that. And then Africa suffers the exact same problem, which is any kind of progress is going to be seen with a suspicious hand, while America can pretty much do whatever they want.
People are gonna point the finger at the colonists and the colonial masters, but it's just like, all right, cool. Though I'm Christian, whenever I look at history, I look at it from a very secular point of view, because to be honest, everyone indulged in wars, everyone indulged in conquest. The French were conquered, Spanish were conquered, blah blah blah. But they still managed to develop themselves. Like everyone went to war. Like even in Africa, my family, I'll say,
For a second there, I thought he was going to give a secular take, but he decided to take a, let's just put it in quotation marks, race realist take, which is everybody got colonized. Okay, fine. So America got colonized, right? North America. Where are all the natives in that area? Do you realize that the different types of colonization was different? Like even when they colonized Spain or France or places like that, they didn't despise the natives in the same way. Whereas in Africa and in America and sometimes even places like India, to some degree, they had wishes that those people would just disappear. I know what you're thinking. If that's true, how come the Indians that were colonized even earlier than Africans, why don't they ever complain?
Something that's interested me recently is how right wing political grifters and people who claim to be libertarians in the US and Canada point to India and say colonialism was good. Here are the usual claims peddled by the likes of right wing media outlets like Fox News or any of the alt right independent news media outlets as they like to be called. England gave India a constitution. She gave them language, rule of law. She gave them trains. And of course, the trains. Some of them even try to claim today that India was a barbarous, uncivilized land that needed the Europeans to swoop in and civilize the native population, to liberate them from their beastly religion, beastly customs, and so on and so forth. You know the story.
So what we're seeing here is that there is no care about where they are. There is no care about who they are and their culture. It all comes down to, oh, they were all just savages and therefore they could not have built anything. They say this about America. They say this about Africa. They say this about India, and really they say it about any other place. The only places they don't say it about is places that now are doing very, very well, places like China. But when they weren't, they were like, yeah. Do they not say that the religion of the Middle East is a beastly one?
Why Greece, Rome claimed as Western European Christian civilization if 90% culture trade territory was in Mediterranean, Egypt, West Asia, Persia, India? Today, the white man rules, so he will claim Western Europe as he will claim everything. He will claim Greece and Rome as Western European Christian civilization. Look, Rome wasn't Christian. Rome was polytheistic. Greece wasn't Christian. Greece was polytheistic. They claim Alexander as their own, but they hate polytheism. Alexander was a polytheist. They claim Julius Caesar as their own. Julius Caesar was a polytheist.
yeah, my dad's side of the family, they were historically part of the Oyo Empire. That empire didn't come together by people just giving high fives and saying kumbaya. No, it was formed by war. War was just a part of history. So I'm not hearing colonialism as the reason, as for the reason as to why Africa's like how it is. Oh,
By the way, I hope there's someone out there who's charting down the number of Nigerians so far that we have who have this defeatist mentality about their own country and their own people.
fucking hell, I'm stumbling over my words.
Yet almost everyone in that country live under $2 a day. Mark Zuckerberg, one American, is richer than the DR Congo.
So again, a stupid point. We don't even need real analysis. We could just look at AI for this. Okay, so all I looked up was what countries in Europe is Mark Zuckerberg richer than? So here we go. With an estimated in 2025 net worth of around 216 billion, Mark Zuckerberg is wealthier than a vast majority of European nations' total annual GDP. His wealth exceeds the economic output of almost all European countries, including Finland, Portugal, Greece, Romania, and Hungary, often doubling or tripling their annual GDP. What's their excuse?
The nightmare continues in East Africa. It is just as poor as its
Now, what I will say, although I was saying colonial masters are no reason for the demise of Africa.
Yep, that's the black side of him waking up going, it's probably beating himself up inside, like, yo, you're really gonna sit here and say colonial masters did nothing?
To a certain extent, they do incentivize corruption. Because, for example, in Nigeria, I know the French have a.
Hey, before he completes his statement, how many times have I said this? That the reason why the people in Nigeria can afford, well, not just Nigeria, West Africa in general, can afford to be so corrupt is because they're financed by France, which takes resources and then feeds it to their countries.
Stake in Nigeria as they want to extract our resources. So they kind of, let's say, aid terrorism in a sense, so that they can evacuate certain regions and begin their mining operations.
By the way, what he's saying over here is absolutely true. I can link you documentaries which have been re-uploaded by the companies themselves from 2002, 2005, 2015, and all of these are about how the French basically come to these West African nations. They let me tell you how bad this is. In some of them, they're not even allowed to be recorded. So if you start recording, there's going to be some, black African people coming there to confiscate your thing. So they're imposing uh, anti freedom of speech laws in a country that doesn't even belong to them.
And USA, yeah, USA, they even admitted to funding Boko Haram. So I will say, to a certain extent, we can blame the Western powers, but for the most part, when we're talking about the reason why my cousin doesn't have food on his plate, bro, it's to do with the Nigerian government. And we can put the blame on the government, but I really do believe that the government is just a representation of the people in Nigeria.
So I'm not here to defend a government. I'm here to defend a people. And that is the thing that is most important. I 100% believe that the government is, it's corrupt, it's got its problems. We've seen the conversations between, even I think the person who was in the opposition party, he's now with the person who won and basically covering for the person. And that's just basically what's happening. Like in the country, there's a lot of corruption. No one is saying that didn't happen, but that will come back down to that old saying of like, what matters more in a swimming pool, the length of the swimming pool or the width of the swimming pool? And the answer is both. And in the same way, colonization matters, and so does domestic leadership matter. No one's saying none of this stuff matters. It matters. I don't. Do I believe that if some guy is some really bad dude that he should be cooed? Absolutely. Do I believe that he should be replaced, voted out, or any of that stuff? No matter how it works, I think absolutely that should happen. I don't think that they're innocent just because they got colonized. But colonization has to be part of the conversation.
because a lot of my family members, like for example, my dad will complain about the corruption in Nigeria. I truly believe if he was in office, he will be a corrupt politician.
Damn, not about your own father. Let me tell you something. My father. Okay, let me not give you any information about that. There is no way he would be a corrupt politician, or my mother, or anybody that I know. Most of the people that I know, there's no way. There is no way they would be a corrupt politician. Not in that way. Sure, the standard corruption. I don't think anybody can resist the level of corruption that you would get, like how in America they're corrupt and everywhere else they're corrupt, but the levels that, like, taking blackmail and bribes and stuff like that, I don't believe that for a second. So for him to say that, I don't know his dad. Maybe his dad is a foul character, although I don't like that he expanded it to all Nigerians.
I put that on God Almighty.
Bruh, that that is crazy. You put it on God that your dad would be corrupt. Now that is crazy. I hope that. Do you like him? Do you think he's like a cool guy, or Jesus Christ? This guy said he's dad would be corrupt. Let me ask a question: as corrupt as these guys, or just like slightly corrupted? This guy said he puts it on God Almighty. Jesus.
He will be a corrupt politician. So
You see that sigh that he just gave? That's not a normal sigh. Let's hear that again.
he will be a corrupt politician. So
That sigh is pure trauma. All of that is trauma right there. And I do understand because, of course, sometimes, when you're living under a government or something like that, it can feel like there's no escape. And I do understand, like, Nigeria's got its bad spots. We've seen it on TV. Some of the most terrible things is when you see those rivers where, like, people still have to cross, and you're like, wait a minute, 21st century, there's Nigerian women who have to, like, cross some river. And then meanwhile, when they need to build like an oil whatever, like, they can build that in seconds.
in the west and central of the doomed continent. It makes nothing, it innovates nothing, and is full of poor people.
Yikes, yet again. These, by the way, I want to state this again. Both of these guys are at least Nigerian in descent. Like, they come from Nigeria, and they're talking so badly about their own people. Like, even if my country was poor, I remember, I think it was Liberia, at its height, the people were still proud of their own people. At the height of pain, at the height of war, they still thought, no, it's not the people, it's the corruption. These guys it seems like they've just given up on their own people, and they've just surrendered their bodies to the Europeans. And so what he just said over there, I mean, he did say West and Central Africa, which we could talk about what they innovate, which, by the way, West Africa innovates a lot. It's just that they innovate. Plus, it's part of the innovation. It's not like we're this area that's completely outside of the digital space. You can Google it yourself. It's very easy to see what Nigeria has contributed in the digital space. The level of disrespect for their own countries is something that is unbelievable to me. So while it is true that, countries like Japan and stuff have like a higher level of innovation today, I think people have no idea, none, zero, how many people are innovating all over the world all the time. So I think, let's give an example. So in Nigeria, there's about 1,104 patents filed in 2025. During the same period, 1,081 patents were granted. So about 20 were rejected. This is the thing that people don't know. They're like, oh, they invent nothing. No, when you're thinking about invention, especially today, we're living in a digital era. We're living in all the. When you think about innovation, you're thinking like a cartoon character. You're thinking about Thomas Edison. You're thinking about these people who are inventing the light bulb. We're way past that. Africa has been contributing a lot to these things. They put out pay. There's a reason why they pay, by the way, for a patent for these things. They don't just like come out and be like, no European would copy it anyway because it's a piece of garbage. People have no idea what Africa is up to. So I want to compare it to another African country where some of these people think like, oh no, this African country is in the north and the other one's in the south. They're so different. 1,900 patents filed in Egypt. And guess what? About 495 patents granted. Top 5 countries in Africa that make innovations. And again, you don't get granted any of these unless your innovation is true. Now, again, I'm not saying that these countries are contributing to patent technology or innovations today in the same way that any of the other countries that are super developed are. They're not. They're not in the position to. I mean, let's take a. It's gonna sound so depressing. I almost don't want to say it, but the truth fears no question. So let's take something like Japan, for example. Japan and America. America had 300,000. Japan had 300,000. Now I know what you're gonna say. Isn't that disrespectful for you to say 1,000 is a lot when Japan and America have so much? Japan and America and China are a different beast altogether today in the 21st century. Just look at their GDP, look at everything. They're a totally different beast. But let's compare a similar country. I mean, not similar in many ways, but a similar one. 3,800. PCT patents. This is an international patent, by the way, PCT patent that protects inventors. These are the same patents that were granted to the Nigerians. Unsurprisingly, South Africa has one of the highest in Africa with 11,000 patents. That's a little more than Sweden. By the way, when our entire world went into a shutdown. I'm being careful because I don't want to trigger some demonetization stuff. But when our entire world went into a shutdown, one of the key countries that was developing some of the medicines that would eventually be used by the rest of us, by companies like America, blah, blah, was South Africa. Some of the research done was applied.
Of poor people multiplying like ants. East Africa makes the data even more shocking. It has 2 islands off the mainland of Africa that is not poor. Guess what? The 2 islands are predominantly Asian.
So this is a terrible game that he's playing because Southeast Asian countries are very poor as well. I mean, I don't like dragging other poor countries in there, but since we're doing it, Southeast Asian countries are poor. A lot of those places are poor. I mean, there's definitely uneven wealth in India. You want to pick a place that has a lot of Asians? What about Madagascar? Madagascar's pretty poor.
And Mauritius. So the blacker the place, the poorer the place. If you're black and you're watching me, are you triggered, upset? What are you upset about? Tell me in the comments and I will engage. At BCD, we don't sell ice creams or project Africa like Wakanda.
Should I leave a comment? He said he will engage if you leave a comment. Firstly, what do I have a problem with? Well, I have a problem with you downplaying colonization. I also have a problem with you blaming an entire race for the actions of a few. Right? Like, it's like saying that North Koreans, hey, that's a very good example. So North Korea is like a poor wasteland except for a very small area, and then South Korea is this very successful place. Yet the people are basically genetically identical. Can you not see as an experiment that clearly it has nothing to do with genetics and it has to do with the leaders? Is it the people's fault that their leader is like a hermit king who's very evil and wants to rule?
Southern Africa
What
is
kind
where
of-
the myth comes to bear. Before I continue on the region of Southern Africa, let's talk about South Africa.
Okay, I can't lie. I'm about to destroy South Africa.
See, you can destroy Nigeria all you want because of other people's ignorance of Nigeria. It's going to be easy for you to make claims about it, but you're not going to make those same claims about South Africa. South Africa is a very different animal than any of those places you just showed. And I displayed it with the patents. I can display it with the electricity. I can display it with buildings. I can display it with the fact that we still have tons of wealthy white people in our country, which, by the way, they're not accounted for all their wealth. I mean, I know you've got this idea. By the way, we keep, even though they said that after apartheid things would go down, we keep kicking out billionaires.
Badly. Because they always come for Nigerians, whether that be Nigerians and Nigerians or the diaspora.
Oh, that's cute. You're gonna defend them? You literally said your own dad, your father would be corrupt. Everything that xenophobic South Africans believe, you just confirmed. I don't believe it. I don't know your dad, so maybe he's like a weirdo, but I don't believe every Nigerian is super corrupt. But you, in your little rant, trying to I mean, I don't even want to go too deep into it. Let's not make it personal. But you confirmed it. If you're saying that every single citizen is super corrupt, then why would South Africans want all those people in their country?
I can't lie. South Africa, all the good bits that you see of South Africa was built by white people. They
So here we go with the lies again. Oh, all the good bits of South Africa were built by white people. Where? When? You know, we got eyes, right? We've been around and we've seen buildings being built in South Africa in the last 20 years. Like as a kid, you see a place, it's just dust. And then later there's like 4 or 5 malls. And I mean, I don't even want to go too deep in this, but I know people who personally went to school with me who helped design those malls. So this whole like, oh no, all the good stuff is built by white people. Boy, when did that happen? Did they build buildings in the past? Yes. Were they to facilitate every single person? No. So if you look over here, and this is a map of South Africa, right? I know it looks like a skull. You always look like that to me, upside down, like of some kind of animal. But if you look at the light green place, that's a place called Eastern Cape in South Africa. It's an entire province. There's a mall that was built in 2015. Multiple planners, multiple investors, multiple this, multiple that. And basically, you get this 1.9 billion rand biggest mall in Eastern Cape. That entire region, biggest mall. And I'll say it again. This is just one thing, and it's one of those that is popular because it was popular at one point. But I could give you ones that are not popular. Buildings that did not exist that exist now because of the black population, meaning they not only maintained the buildings that were there before, but they expanded. Now, you can tell me whatever you want about Nigeria, but I know a good amount of Nigerian architecture was built specifically by Nigerians. There's an entire city that was planned and created.
like to they like to exhibit this aura of superiority when they communicate with West and Central Africans. But everything
Bruh, people like you don't make it that hard. You're literally sitting there like, oh yeah, Nigeria, we suck. We're so corrupt. We have no skills whatsoever. You want us, to join you in that and be like, no, you're right. We have no superiority. We just suck. Hell no.
good you see in South Africa was built by the whites.
No, it wasn't. And if the whites left tomorrow, South Africa would be better.
If you see it now, it's decaying due to the negligence of the blacks.
Nothing's decaying. There are some cities which are, they have problems with maintaining infrastructure, but those cities, even though some of them are key, they're not the entirety of South Africa. A lot of places in South Africa are well maintained, but of course, these guys know nothing about that.
So they are in the same boat as us in regards to lacking infrastructure, poor planning, and corruption. They are in the same boat because
You see the problem here? This guy's not even saying, hey, why are you guys downing Nigerians when in actual fact Nigerians have done so many good things? No, he's saying, why are you South Africans? Why do you guys have pride at all about anything that you guys do when really you should be in hell with us? Like you should be sitting there going, no, Africa is terrible and we're all responsible for it because we suck. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not how it's going to work. That is not how it's going to work.
as soon as Nelson Mandela took over from the whites, not saying that the white people were good, they were obviously evil, but the country started to decay.
Oh, wow. As soon as he took over, it started to decay. Is it? Is that what happened? That's crazy.
Like, literally. So,
I'll say it again. If you want to down your own country, if you think that the whole place is garbage and whatever, you guys keep doing that. And again, I'll say it again. I don't know what's going on. Like, is it the education system? I don't know why these people feel so down about their own land. And of course, this guy's got a British accent. Okay, you're in the West, right? Go take all that money from the West, bring it back to your homeland, and turn it into a great place. Or are you saying like you're not as human as everybody else that's living in that land? You can't do anything.
My black brothers in South Africa are quick to throw insults and attack me and anyone else who dare say that South Africa was built by the white. I mean,
So I know positivity doesn't get as much attention as negativity, but I have to highlight this person who was talking about South Africa in the 1800s, and he was an inventor in his own right. He did things that were ridiculous that changed Brazil forever, the country that people now talk about having, $1 trillion. I want to highlight this because a lot of people don't know it. So this is what he said. Look, I came to Africa not to hunt lions like a lord, but to fight slavery and territorial monopoly. I disembarked in a port said on April 2nd, 1892, and soon engaged in my initial battle. Of course, I do not relate my victories abhorring the quixotic, but I am happy with myself and not sure if I will die in Africa or Brazil. And then he gave a list of the stuff that the colonists were doing at the time that basically robbed the black people of the country, withholding land ownership from the Africans. What a disgrace. Africans cannot own property on their own continent. Number two, refusing voting rights to Africans, subjecting them to barbaric laws, judging them in ad hoc courts, using and abusing the atrocious practice of whipping. Number three, employing the brutal Yankee practice of refusing Negroes and mulattoes hotel rooms and even making it difficult for clothing stores and toiletry shops to serve them. So we've got that going on. So tell us again, how did these guys help build our country? Do you not see that these guys built a country for themselves, and the fact that we are maintaining it for so many people when it wasn't built for them? You guys don't know nothing.
Really? Did black South Africans build South Africa? And start typing all your cities, streets, and motorways and tell me which amongst them was designed, planned, and built by the blacks.
For brevity reasons, I'll give you three, but there's over 1,000. For example, this bridge, Msigaba Bridge, financed by the black South African government, it cost 1.7 billion rand. Cosmo City, which is an award-winning established area that was built in starting by 2005. Again, I'm not surprised you know nothing about this because you don't know that there's a lot of places in South Africa that by the end of apartheid were dirt. And I don't mean dirt roads. I mean, there were dirt. It was vacant. There was no one living there. And then all of a sudden, new streets were built in those areas by the black government that you guys like to look down upon because, of course, I actually have no idea why you hate your own people in Nigeria. But again, quick reading: Cosmo City is a prominent award-winning mixed-income housing development northwest of Johannesburg, South Africa, established in 2005 to foster social cohesion and integration living. Conversion of hectares, it hosts over 12,500 residence units, ranging from RDP houses to bonded houses, along with schools, shopping centers like Cosmo Wall, and various commercial, industrial, and recreational facilities. Busamed, a black-owned hospital in South Africa, which is one of the most beautiful hospitals that you can ever visit. By the way, this is embarrassing because there's like I said again, thousands of places in South Africa built by black South Africans, but uh described as one of South Africa's first black owned private hospital groups. Busamed was led by Dr. Deliza Mchi. It operates multiple private hospitals, including Busamed Gateway, Hillcrest, Pardeval, Modderfontein, Bramfisher, Lowveld, and Harrismith. So no, your little idea that South Africa was built by white people, it's a lie. And even the places that were built by South Africans had to rebuild on the same areas because, of course, they were built for a very small number of people. By the way, even the white South Africans had to rebuild.
I'm gonna get called a
South
coon.
Africa
Yep, you are going to get called that, and it's for good reason.
was so developed and well maintained under the white leadership, despite its racial dynamics.
Yeah, so anyone who actually believes this, I want you guys to go watch any documentary about South Africa from the olden days, and you will see that what he's saying right now is absolute nonsense. Uh, South Africa just had a large population of people who, we'll get back to that. It doesn't even matter at this point because these guys are just making stuff up now. And I get it. I understand why, if they hate their own country and they're trying to hate everybody else, why it's important for them to try and downplay South Africa, because South Africa is a success compared to so many other places. And so they have to downplay it in order to make themselves feel better.
Black people have been in charge of that country for 3 decades instead of continuing on the already established foundation the country has regressed.
By the way, can I tell you, 3 decades is nothing. 3 decades is nothing compared to how long it takes to build anything. What did your specialized white people achieve in their first 3 decades?
It is starting to resemble the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. Conversely, European-controlled cities.
And there's a precedent for a lot of Africa because I'll be real, when the colonial masters came, they did build.
Yuck. You know something I've noticed that a lot of these people keep doing? They keep calling these white people masters. Oh, stop. Please stop doing that. These guys, even in that other video that I watched with the Nigerian, the guy kept saying they're your master, and I kept thinking in my head, why do they keep saying this? And I just realized, ah, okay, I don't know, I don't know. Stop calling white people masters. Are you guys not men? What kind of man sits around and calls another man his master?
Many structures which are up to par with the structures they built in their homelands, so UK, Netherlands, blah blah blah. And like for example, when my mom was in Nigeria, when she was growing up, she had red buses, nowhere to be seen now. Why? Because the government wouldn't maintain the infrastructure. They
What's that got to do with South Africa? You know, I'm noticing this a lot. Every time they want to give an example of something in South Africa that's not working, they just pivot to Nigeria.
they have a lack of maintenance culture, and they lack long-term thinking. So
Wow, it's getting sadder and sadder. This is sad. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but this is sad.
yeah, that this phenomenon isn't just unique to South Africa, but you can extrapolate this to the rest of Africa, to be honest, especially Nigeria.
No, you can extrapolate it to your country if you want. Don't extrapolate it to the rest of Africa. We got Rwanda creating infrastructure like it's nobody's business. We've got Kenya. We've got Namibia. Bruh, people aren't playing out here, and this guy is playing around.
Especially Nigeria.
Towns look stable, organized, and safe. Why is this the case? The KwaZulu-Natal police chief, a black police chief, said that 97% of all crimes were committed by black South Africans.
Black South Africans are the majority in South Africa. What percent do you think it's going to be? Also, we've discussed this a lot. Of that percentage, how many of the percentage of South Africa are criminals versus are not? Huh?
Southern Africa is the least.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure that 80% of South Africa is black, so it's not too disproportionate. Not like the 1350 stack that gets thrown around.
So this is where I say America and South Africa have a very big similarity because we have white people in our vicinity. We've seen them. We know how sometimes, how we interact with one another. I think that's why we probably have such a high understanding of because he's saying that thing again. Like, why are you saying that about African Americans? And also, why are you so excited? Every time he downs black people, whether it be African Americans, South Africans, Nigerians, why are you so excited?
Populated region in Africa. The myth that Botswana and Namibia are African beacons is so misleading. I think those who have not been there to either country would say that. I have been to both Namibia and Botswana, and they are just as shit of black Africa. Jesus. The poverty and slums I saw just 5 kilometers outside Windhoek and Gaborone were worse than some of the slums in West Africa. Namibia is.
Okay, so here he's just lying. Here he is just lying. Like in West Africa, there's literally slums built next to sewers in some cases. Like he is lying. Show them. Let us see those slums that are worse than the ones that you can find in West Africa. By the way, notice that he showed the beautiful road when he was driving in Namibia and he goes, "Oh, it's a terrible place." Show us. Show us those places so we can see for ourselves that it's such a terrible area. The fact that you did that with South Africa, where you went and picked terrible spots and then said, "Look how dilapidated it is." Come on.
Actually more developed than Botswana. Gaborone is terribly underdeveloped and poverty is wreaking havoc. Elon Musk is now wealthier than the entire region of Southern Africa, not just his birth country, South Africa. White. It makes no freaking sense, my friends. When Zimbabwe's white population controlled the economy and country, Zimbabwe was one of the cleanest and most organized countries in Africa.
But was it really? or a key area. Oh my god, do I have to say this over and over again?
It had a stable economy with prosperous people. Zimbabwe plunged into chaos as soon as the whites lost their
Okay, I will give Africa the benefit of the doubt because it's kind of unfair to compare it to European countries with extensive histories. So, for example, Nigeria is 60, how much, is it 65 years old, going to be 66? Nigeria is just a conglomerate, I'll say, of many nations. Nigeria is not meant to be one country. We are split into half between religion, then split into 500 different areas due to the difference in ethnicity. So just imagine we make Europe one country. That's basically what Nigeria is. So there are going to be arguments amongst ourselves due to the differences in religion, language, culture, because although people see us as Nigerians, there are so many different ethnicities. And I'll say the difference between a Yoruba Christian and a Hausa Muslim is the same as the difference between an Englishman and an Afghanistani man. Like, it's that different. So how are we meant to move forward as a country when we're arguing over little things such as language, religion? How are we going to get to infrastructure and all of that? So when the British did carve up Nigeria, I believe, no, carve up Africa, not just the British, the Europeans did carve up Africa in 1885. They literally had no Africans there. They literally just sat at the table and said, okay, to stop us from going to war, all right, Germans, you get this bit, French, you guys get this bit, we get this bit, all right, we'll just carve up our borders, like, without the consultation of any Africans there. So I can't lie, that did plunge us into turmoil. Although I did say everything I said before, it did still plunge us into turmoil. Like, because
So again, I do agree now with this part because again, we're talking about a young country, which by the way, there was infrastructure before Kano and all of those. Kano was built in like 1500s. Then there's all kinds of other places inside of Nigeria. There were built up areas and then they were flattened to build other stuff by the Europeans, completely mismatching people, taking people who lived, and I say it again, who lived in urban areas in the past, and then just spinning them out of control, and then they lived in rural areas, and they're not even set up for it.
these countries they just weren't meant to be countries. They just weren't. So that did mess us up a lot. The borders that were drawn arbitrarily. Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually a very important point because the borders that were drawn up suddenly separated people to the point where people are like, yeah, I'm South African, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. When in real life, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think he said it anyway, so it's fine.
on the economy.
Harare used to boast of being the cleanest capital on the continent, was clearly not anymore.
Zimbabwe.
The top 5 wealthiest ethnic groups in Africa are non-black. The European South Africans 1, European Namibians 2, Seychellois 3, Mauritians 4, and North Africans Arab on average are the most affluent ethnic groups in Africa. None is black. Does it make any sense to you?
It actually makes too much sense. I mean, you've just divided it by colonialism, right? The Europeans of South Africa were the biggest colonial group in the southern African areas. Namibia it's a cutoff of South African colonialism. What's that other one you said? The people in the Asiatic regions, those are leftovers of former colonialists from Asia, and then of course the Arabs at the top were colonialists as well, but they were lower than the Europeans. So it does make sense that those people are some of the people who are like that now. I don't know what you mean by richest people, but I'm not even going to dispute it. I'm just going to say it makes sense. Now, what doesn't make sense is if if colonization did nothing, why aren't the Arabs the most richest people in Africa? Since you guys are claiming that, at one time they were. So what happened?
White Africans or European Africans make up 0.03% of Africa. Not even 1%, not even half of a percent. Yet they are the richest by far. You can take a guess. Why do you think that's the case? This is BC.
Okay, let's try. So there's a whole bunch of infrastructure in Africa. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in Africa. Do you really believe that 0.03% of the population did any of that work for real? Like, who do you think did the work? Who do you think designed? Who do you think did all the other stuff? It wasn't them. They just benefited because these people. By the way, if you take just a couple billionaires, you don't even need all of them, but if you just take just a couple billionaires in America, you will get the similar results, even worse, really.
We don't care about political correctness. You can say it freely here. If YouTube block your comment, I will unblock it. I have zero tolerance for wokeism and political correctness. From Nigeria to the DR Congo, from Ethiopia to Tanzania, Kenya, Cameroon, Ghana, Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, or Mozambique, there are virtually no inventions, research in STEM fields, industrialization, production, or governments that are dedicated to educating the next generation of experts.
Why didn't I watch this video earlier? What a disgrace.
Instead, Black African leadership behaves in an almost identically corrupt manner, despotic and authoritarian. I refuse to accept that this is an accident. There are no poor white countries.
He said there are no poor white countries, huh? That's a very interesting statement.
And every black country
there are
is
poor
poor.
white
Do you
countries,
think
but
this is
they
an
are
accident?
living in the
The
poverty
poorest
that
white
Africa
countries in Eastern Europe, Moldova, Albania, and Georgia, are richer and 10
poverty
times
is not
more
comparable
developed
to the poverty
than
in
the
sub-Saharan
richest
Africa.
black countries.
So-
The poorest country in the Americas is a black one, Haiti. Haiti have had independence for over 200 years. In fact, independent Singapore didn't exist for over 100 years before independent Haiti.
To be fair,
can you compare them
Haiti
both today?
were lambasted by France upon their independence.
Blah, 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 colonization, blah, blah, blah. What else can you say? If they don't want to believe that the past affects the future, that's on them.
Independence.
The
France
two
tried to make
poorest
Haiti
counties in the United
like
States are
literally
Issaquah
collapse.
County in Mississippi and Randolph County in Georgia. You can guess what their common denominator is. They both have a black majority.
Wow, now we're in America all of a sudden. Oh my god, what was the point of this video in the beginning? And by the way, I'm way too tired to try and look up all of that information and point out poor white places in America.
This cannot be a coincidence. You hear all the time, Africa has natural resources. Can you guess who discovered them? You guessed right. White people discovered them.
Yikes.
White people are the ones mining them. White people are the ones generating the funds and remitting whatever they can to black Africans. Of course.
So I made a whole long video, and I think I should link it, about how Africans had already discovered a whole bunch of stuff and they were selling it to the Europeans, and that's the reason why they took over the country, because they didn't want a middleman. And by the way, you said they remit the stuff that they steal to the Africans. Well, of course they do. They're corrupt. One of the most corrupt governments in the world, the European apartheid government.
Of course, if you don't want it, go mine it yourself. Let's see how well you do. Like how well you've managed
can't do
your
that.
economies. By the way,
They can't do
North
that.
Africa.
So not only are there already black-owned mines in South Africa, but in order to prove the point at a most highest level, there's also illegal mines, which basically take billions away from Africans, and they exist in almost every country in Africa. One of the easiest ones to point out is the coltan mines in Congo.
Is a wealth.
They can't do that. Even they built a refinery in Nigeria, Dangote refinery, and the refinery is not up to par with the ones that the Europeans built, because apparently the oil, obviously, what is it that we did? Yeah, fractional distillation. apparently the oil that's being produced through the refinery is not up to par with the European standard of oil. So can't really be exported to Europe apparently. So the refinery that we built, yeah, and
Nigeria exports a whole bunch of oil to different African countries, South Africa being one of the biggest. So I don't want to hear that nonsense.
I don't know if that's a refinery problem or just a Nigeria problem because I'm pretty sure the Chinese built a refinery. Maybe they scammed us on purpose and guys tried to cut corners. I don't know because the Chinese are competent. They know how to build a refinery. Africans can't build a refinery. I don't think there's been any refinery in Africa built by Africans, which is sad.
Again, speak for your own country. South Africa has done that in spades, but forget any of what he's saying. Can you guys now see when I hear Americans saying there's like Africans talking bad about Americans, why I always say don't just say Africans. I don't want to hear you just say Africans. Where do these Africans come from? What do they think about themselves? And what do they think about other Africans? Before we start doing the whole.
Sad. And when I say Africa, I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa. Maybe these guys up here have built it, but yeah.
Region in Africa. I guess you already know why. North Africa is more prosperous, more developed than sub-Saharan Africa, except South Africa, which was built by white.
By the way, I'm noticing some other new trend that's happening here, which is apparently South Africa was built by whites. What about all the other part of Africa? Aren't you saying that their civilization was also built by whites? Why did that not get maintained the same way that the South African one got maintained?
And by the way, I'm saying this about black Africans people, whatever. There's me a black African talking about black African people. If you are a white supremacist, click, let me not swear, click off of this. Like, I don't like you white supremacists, you mustache man people. I don't like you guys. Like, you're not welcome here. I don't believe in any ideology that promotes the inferiority or superiority of certain peoples.
This here video is an exercise in that. Do this guy listen to what he has been saying the entire time? He's been saying, "Oh, it's the white people. They're doing it well. They're the ones who can maintain it. Africans, they can't do it." And now you're gonna sit here and say, "No, no, no, no. Those are the ones who you are attracting."
I don't like that. So don't think, yeah, fine, a self-aware black guy. No, I don't like you guys. So yeah, I'm letting that be known.
Schools and
Yeah. How about you don't make up information about countries you know nothing about? Let's start there.
you expect them to produce top
No, he's
engineers,
right.
scientists, or technicians. There is almost no research and development in Black Africa. South Korea produces more top-notch engineers, doctors, scientists, and IT professionals than the entire Black Africa.
Okay, so upon this, the supremacists, they'll say we're getting the what is it, cycle wrong. We're getting the order wrong. So what he's trying to say is that we are lacking intelligence because we don't have education, or we don't have a proper educational infrastructure. The supremacists will now say we don't have a proper educational infrastructure because we lack intelligence. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? I don't know which order is correct because we all start.
Yeah, so your little cleanup thing there, I don't know if it was to save face or just go with it. If you're gonna go 100% with the racism, just go with it. But this guy's literally now talking directly to them and saying, "Hey," he says, "I don't know which one it is." What do you mean you don't know which one it is?
From zero, innit? So yeah, because if you guys have seen the bell curve,
Well, oh dear, he said the words. He said the bell curve. This is just pure, just right wing propaganda.
The average IQ of Black Americans who are said to be diluted sits around, what is this, 80, whereas for whites it's around 100. So yeah, supremacists believe that the reason why blacks act the way they do is because they have low IQ, and that low IQ manifests itself in, let's say, aggression, just being stupid, inability to articulate themselves. Like they always say, you guys say ax instead of ask. Like,
Again, this is so embarrassing. How is this possible? How is this possible? How can someone be this far deep into this ideology that they cannot even see what they're saying?
so yeah. As for the bell curve, I don't know if it's true. Actually, you know what? It's not even disputed. It's just a matter of what you attribute the low IQ to. Like, for example, supremacists will just say that black people are inherently dumb. Some people would say that we lack nutrition, so our brains are.
He said some people will say we lack nutrition. Hey, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound smiley, but this whole thing, I don't even know what to do emotionally in my head. Some people say it's because we lack nutrition. What the hell?
So yeah, I'm saying apparently. I don't really know. I just read. I don't know. Maybe it's Wakanda people trying to like defend the black
Maybe it's Wakanda people. Wakanda people. The hell's a Wakanda person?
IQ topic.
African continent. Less than 5% of West and Central Africans are employable to the standards of STEM fields in the West or East Asia. You watching, Black African, yes, you. Take a look around your household and point to anything that was researched, developed, and manufactured in a black country. Do you see any? So what if
Yes, I see medicine. I see pencils, pens, all of them made in South Africa. Made in South Africa. I mean, I bought a couple things that have made in South Africa stickers from the online service that we have in South Africa. So yeah, a whole bunch of stuff around me. By the way, the buildings made by South Africans, the houses made by South Africans, the roads, pick your pick.
you were colonized? So what? China was ravaged for centuries.
Yeah, this is
South
what I was
Korea was
saying.
invaded and subjugated to brutal Japanese rule.
What do you mean, so what? China was ravaged and it showed.
Throughout history, stronger powers have
Yeah, it's
subjugated
just-
weaker ones to brutal domination.
It's just what
This
it is.
will never stop.
Obviously,
Does
I
that
will
mean
say the British were wrong.
I can't say that I care at this point that you admit that.
the world begins to display products made in Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, Tanzania, Angola, and other African nations on their shelves, mega stores, high street, and homes, the black African will not be respected, and the data will continue to point to a potential intellectual deficiency. Until our institutions are rock solid and transparent, and our educational systems are producing space scientists, medical doctors, and other skills based on Black Africa's research and curriculum without regurgitating already established Western standards, Black Africans will continue to face disrespect, and the data will continue to point to an intellectual defeat.
To be honest, do I really agree? Do I disagree? I can't lie. I kind of agree with this video still.
Yep, and nobody's shocked.
I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel for us to be respected on an intellectual level. Like, for example, China is the master of replication, and they are said to have a higher IQ. East Asians are said to have a higher IQ than white Caucasians. Yeah, but it seems like we can't even copy what works. And I'm not saying copying what works is an easy feat, because you still need to have a level of intellect to actually understand, let's say, the theory behind, for example, engineering feats and all of that. You still need to have a certain level of intellect, but shit, I'm pretty sure he believes that we don't even have that. So yeah, it's just my opinion on the video. I can't lie. It's just like nothing he said was wrong, and I hate to say it, but
So what he says after this is probably one of the most telling things ever, because of course you always have to ask the question, how do they deal with the fact that since they're black, this must apply to them too?
who knows? He might be true. I don't think I'm stupid. Like, obviously, I'm not saying I'm anything special. I got good grades in school. I would consider myself somewhat smart. But I mean, on a large scale, it seems like there might be an intellectual deficiency between Africans
That's right. Everybody else is stupid except for you. That's how it works, isn't it?
in Africa. But also, to caveat that, that might just be Africans in Africa, because where I've been raised in England my whole life, I've had correct nutrition, correct, good education, very good education, in fact, even though I went to a public school. And I got very high grades, and Nigerians in the UK tend to get higher grades than white kids in the UK. So that might just be a cultural thing, I don't know, but I really do think if there was a huge disparity in IQ, we would not be able to like achieve those results that we are said to achieve. So yeah, that's my take on the video, and yeah, hope you liked it. Hope you.
By the way, I know you guys are gonna be like, you search deep for these people. No, I don't. They're everywhere. They're growing. I don't know what's going on. He said it in the beginning. They're growing.